Welcome once again to the Dental Marketing Mastery Series. This is another in our series of podcasts. My name is Howie from New Patients Incorporated, and that guy with the other microphone is Mark Dilatush. He's the president of New Patients Incorporated.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to quickly recap what we covered last week in our podcast about the two halves of the dental market. Mark, you want to recap?
The two halves of the dental market. We could probably spend 5 podcasts just talking about the statistics behind how mom makes her decision on a healthcare provider. But we won't bore you with all the statistics and details and all the research and all the testing. What we will tell you is about half. It's actually like 48% and 52%, but about half of the dental market, half the moms, will choose a healthcare provider for their family based primarily on the communication stimulus of a deal. In other words, price, and price only. In other words, here's my deal, come on in, try me out as a dentist. About half the moms will respond positively to that. The other half absolutely positively will not. And actually, you may be alienating the top half of the dental market if you're using a lot of deals in your promotion. That's what we talked about last week. That subject is the top of the pyramid of understanding in the Mastery series. Without understanding that, almost every other question you ask yourself about what you should do with your marketing dollar becomes confusing. So you really have to walk away from this series with the knowledge that when you advertise your dental practice, no matter where it is, the US, Canada, Australia, Ireland, England, it doesn't matter. We've done testing in every one of those countries. You are still dealing with a 50-50 proposition. You're dealing with a 50-50 market. And you need, if you do it right, and I know that's what everybody listening wants to do. Nobody listening is listening because they want to know how to do advertising wrong. You're all listening because you want to do a better job of advertising your dental practice. So this is a prerequisite. You have two halves that you're working on. Now this week, we're going to go into what the characteristics are of each half. In other words, what should you expect if you promote to the top? What should you expect if you promote to the bottom? And then we're going to talk a little bit about you specifically. What situation are you in? How much money should you allocate to the bottom? How much money should you allocate to the top? And then if you are going to allocate money externally of your practice to promote your dental practice, how do you target each half and how do you communicate with each half? So those are the subjects for this week or for this installment. So let's jump right in and go through the result characteristics of each half. And I want to remind everyone of one of my favorite guys in the world and his favorite quote. Howie, while I pour another cup of coffee, would you go through your favorite quote of all time?
Well, there are so many to choose from. When we talk about offers,
yes, your offer quote.
Yeah, many dentists get very, very concerned about their offers, what the kind of deal they want to put forth, and it really comes down to this. It's kind of silly. It isn't that it's not important. It's just not very important in the overall scheme of things. So I always tell dentists, if your offer is your best foot forward, you really have no feet. And what that really means is don't be so damn concerned about the offer.
Right.
Have a little one or something like that initially to get the phone to ring, but in the broad scheme of things, you really don't want to promote price to the top half of the dental market.
Right. Thank you. That's what I was looking for, is that no fee quote. And here's why, and this is the perfect segue to what to expect. So we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of clients over all the years who have used our stuff to promote their dental practices, and most of it worked, some of it didn't. That's just the nature of marketing. But over all those years, in all those countries, with whatever, 14 million impressions a month that we put out on the street, with all those tracking numbers and all that data coming in, here's what we know to be true. We know the bottom half, and this is really important, is knowing what to expect before you spend money on marketing it's kind of like being a genie. It's like being a magician. It's knowing what's going to happen. There's no mystery, right? That's wonderful. That's a wonderful place to be. So if you're going to promote to the bottom of the market, moms who will choose a healthcare provider based primarily on price, here's what you can expect. You can expect short-term increase in phone calls. You can expect a good solid volume of phone calls. You'll enjoy the volume of calls. You'll enjoy how much your phone rings. You can expect slightly higher missed appointments, new patient no-shows. You can definitely expect to kiss a lot of frogs. In other words, a small percentage, a lower percentage of these responders will actually follow through, accept your treatment, refer others, and stick to their recare. And you can definitely expect that your recare percentage on the back end of the business, your compliance is going to go down. When your compliance goes down, your administrative costs go up, because somebody in your office is tasked with the job of following up with all the overdue recare appointments. Well, if your recare compliance goes down and you're paying a person to follow up with them, what you're going to end up with ultimately is you're going to end up paying more for that person, and you're going to be getting a less result. Okay? So that's what you can expect. You can also expect, and this is really important, the bell curve. I hope everybody listening understands what a bell curve is. A bell curve is when your results go up and they reach a plateau. The plateau is the top of the bell curve, and then after the plateau, results start to go down and they fall down to the bottom again. That's what a bell curve is. There is a very defined, prominent bell curve when promoting consistently to the bottom of the dental market. That bell curve is 29 to 33 months long. So if you consistently promote, let's say, this is pretty classic, is if you mail postcards to your local market on a consistent basis and those postcards have deals on them, you will rise to the top of your apex of your bell curve rather quickly. But I can absolutely 100% guarantee you that in an average market between 29 and 33 months, 28 and 34, somewhere in there, that top of that bell curve is going to start to slide, and it's going to slide quickly. In other words, at that point in life, you will be spending the same amount of money for a drastically smaller response. Those are all classic characteristics of the impact of promoting dentistry to the bottom of the dental market. Now, let's contrast that to promoting dentistry to the top half of the market. The top half of the market typically generates, you may not like this, but it typically generates less volume of phone calls. And if you think about it, there's no enormous call to action other than the benefits of the dentistry you provide. You probably are not going to put, call now and get a free egg sandwich on a mailer if you're promoting to the top of the dental market. So the call volume actually goes down, but the quality of the interaction and the quality of the new patient goes way up. Now your new patient no-shows are almost zero if you go after the top half. The average revenue per patient in the first year is 3 times greater, and in 12 years it will be 11 times greater. So the ROI build and the exponential ROI in the top half of the market is extraordinary. It's 11 times greater than the bottom half. You will kiss less frogs. The doctor's schedule will start to schedule out because you will actually be doing dentistry to people who need it. Your recare person, whoever follows up with your recare, will now become your best friend, and they will be happier at their job position because more people will be coming in on your recare. Your hygienist will be more productive, and so on and so forth. So the bottom line here is if you are right now tired of kissing frogs, tired of new patient missed appointments, wondering why you can't keep hygiene filled, pissed off at your hygienist because they're not as productive as they could be, and you don't know what your business administrator is doing with your recall list, chances are that if you're promoting to the bottom half of the dental market, you actually caused the problem.
Yeah.
Okay? We see this all the time, and I'm a part of probably 50 dental forums, either on Facebook or Dental Town or Nexus or whatever these groups are. And invariably, once a month, some dentist logs on and starts complaining about no-shows. And invariably, it comes down to, one of two things. They pre-appoint everybody and are surprised when everybody doesn't keep their appointed time. And they are also promoting their practice based primarily on price, bringing in shoppers. And those shoppers, here's what you don't understand about the shoppers. The shoppers are going to pick a different deal next time.
That's exactly right.
They picked your deal this time. What's going to stop them from picking a different deal next time? Okay. So
really?
We're not saying with all of them. We're not, come on. We're not, nothing is absolute in marketing. Okay. But for the most part, everything I just said, the characteristics about the bottom and the top half of the market are true. I know the business analytics are true because I see them. Okay. We know the impact and the ROI numbers are absolutely true because we've been tracking them for years. All right. So here's why this is so incredibly vitally important for everyone listening to understand. Because everybody on this podcast has a choice. You have 3 choices. They are, I want to use my marketing budget to go after the bottom half of the market. I want to use my marketing budget to only go after the top half of the market. Or I want to do both simultaneously. The third one is the advanced user. they go to the head of the class. But there's a lot involved with that. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of things you have to do just right in order not to mess with your own results. Okay, so those are the characteristics of the top and the bottom half. Now we go to the question, which half should you go after? That's a very personal question based on your current capacity. We can't answer that question for everybody who's listening to this podcast. I can tell you this, outside of the most constricted marketing budget that you've ever even contemplated, in the most dire circumstances, let's say, and let me give you an example. This is actually not an uncommon example. A startup dental practice went into business with $10,000 in marketing money, thought it was enough, expelled it, or got burned through 10 grand in the first 2 months, ends up with 16 new patients. And now what do they do? Okay, now they come and they say, well, what should I do? How should I market my practice? Only in those circumstances would we ever recommend pouring money into the bottom half of the market without pouring some money into the top. Almost every one of our marketing plans is all top or a combination of top and bottom. And our marketing plans, when they are a combination of top and bottom, it's because the top, we can predict the top is not going to generate the patient volume that the doctor is going to need because the doctor has a large amount of capacity to fill. Maybe they added chairs. Maybe they added a new dentist. Maybe they added hours just to their own schedule. Whatever. For whatever reason, the doctor's capacity expanded, and now it needs to be filled, and it needs to be filled in a short period of time. In those circumstances, we will promote to the top and the bottom simultaneously, fully understanding that when we hit capacity or when we get close to capacity, we're going to pull the money from the bottom and reallocate it to the top.
It's also important to note that when we promote simultaneously, there are entirely different messages to each.
Yeah.
Well, we'll send the same thing to the lower half as we do to the upper half.
Right, which gets us to targeting and communicating, which are our last two pieces of today's podcast. So, targeting. This is an interesting topic. We could probably spend, and we probably should actually, Howie, we should plan to spend one of these 30-minute podcasts on the intricacies of targeting and the characteristics of each media type. Because there's tons of dentists out there right now who are pouring literally millions of dollars into passive, untargetable media types. You can't target the internet. You could target Facebook, sort of, okay, but you can't target Google. You can't push your website to a targeted audience. You can't really, there's no other media type out there that you can do such a refined job of targeting than mail. And the cool thing about dentistry is that your dental practice is basically a local business. If you serve 90% of your customers probably come within a 15-mile radius of the center of the roof of your building. I'm sure there's some that come from 60 miles away, but the vast majority of your patients come from within a 15-mile radius. We joke all the time in our seminars, if we wanted to find left-handed midgets within a 6-mile radius of your practice, we could find them because we can target them. We can go into the database, which has almost limitless selection criteria, and we can target to only, and this is the key, only use your marketing dollar to present your communication to people who will most likely be a good match for your dental practice. I want you to think about that last paragraph that we just said. That's your other choices with your advertising dollar is to throw them all over the world and hope the targeted segment finds them. That's expensive as heck.
That's like radio or TV. They don't call them broadcasts for nothing. You spread your message out way too far and to so many other people that aren't even ever going to be patients of yours.
Right. That doesn't mean that we don't have radio clients, and it doesn't mean we don't have TV clients, because we do.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
But the vast majority of you, what you really want is you want to reach out to the local households who will most likely be a good match for your practice, and talk to them, and they will respond. Now, the only media type that you can do that with effectively or as effectively is direct mail. So when we talk about targeting, who are we targeting when we go after the top half, and who are we targeting when we go to the bottom half? Well, Here's the way we do it. Not a secret. We use a service called Epsilon, or a company called Epsilon. You may recognize them as Equifax. You may have thought all along that Equifax made money giving away free credit reports. If you think about what I just said, that doesn't make any sense. Nobody makes any money giving away free anything. Equifax is the largest provider of direct mail lists in the world. That's what they make money at. And they have an incredibly large search criteria database. If you order enough volume of mail lists from them, you're invited to go inside the vault. And obviously we do enough business with them. So we go inside the vault and we say, all right, here's what I want. Here's Dr. Smith's office address. I want you to find me the top 40% of the local market. I want 15,000 targets. And I don't want you to find me anyone below the top 40%. And when I say the top 40%, I mean top 40% in the following 4 categories. Geography, closest to the office. A thing called marketability index. Credit worthiness. And household income. I want all 4 of those criteria met, and I want all 4 of those criteria within the top 40% of the entire available population. I do not want anyone in the bottom 60%. So if I was going to mail to the top half of the market, that's where I would mail first. Do you agree, Howie?
Absolutely.
Okay, why? If there's 10 houses on Maple Street and you know 4 of them qualify to be good patients and 6 of them don't, why in the world would you waste your money mailing to the other 6?
You would.
You would. Right, you wouldn't. Okay, now, how would we go after the bottom and the top simultaneously? We would target the top 40% for the mailer design for the to go after the top half. Now, the mailer design for the top half is not a postcard. You don't go after the top half of the market trying to present to them the benefits of the dentistry you provide with the space of a thimble. Okay? Postcards have no space. They have just enough space to put Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and a couple of deals. You have no room on a postcard to present, make your case, talk about the wonderful benefits of the dentistry you provide. That half the market would be interested in if you would just talk to them about it. Okay. So we would target the top half, top 40% in those categories, and we would use to communicate with them a trifold, quadfold. If you got one in the mail, you would say, wow, this is a really nice office brochure. You would look at it and you wouldn't think it was a postcard, and you certainly wouldn't think it was cheap. Okay? Now, the bottom half of the market we would target differently. We would probably target that middle 30%, somewhere between 20 and 30%, up to 50, 60%. We would target that middle consumer in all the same 4 categories. Distance, marketability index, credit worthiness, household income. Now, here's why. We don't want to send the deals to the top 40% because those moms, for the most part, don't want to see the deals. And you, the owner of that dental practice, don't want to alienate the top half of the market because eventually all your money is going to be spent going after them. So you don't want to give them the impression that you're the cheap dentist in town. Okay, so don't. Target appropriately, set up your communication appropriately, send them the appropriate message. The middle, you don't want to send them those trifolds. The middle part of the market will respond really, really well to those deals, and you don't have to talk to them about the benefits of the technology, your services, your convenience. You don't have to talk to them really about hardly anything other than to let them know, here's a Google map, here's my name, here's my website, and here's the 2 or 3 offers we have for the new patients this month. That's really all you have to do. How much of a rocket science, Howie, do you have to be, a scientist, do you have to be to promote to the bottom half of the dental market?
Not much.
Not much. Right. Right. It's really not difficult, okay?
Even I could do it.
Yeah, even we can do it. So promoting to the bottom half is really, really, really easy. All right, but you have to be really careful that you don't alienate the top while you do it. Right. So if let's say you're in a situation where you know what, I need some quality new patients, but I also need volume to fill my schedule at least temporarily while my new associate comes up to speed. Let's say. Well, that's a perfect example. You send your postcards to the middle, you send your trifolds to the top, you get 12 calls from the middle, 8 calls from the top, you get a nice blend of volume and quality, and pretty soon, when your capacity fills up, you can slow down, mail into the middle, and push that money or that marketing investment more over to the top. It makes perfect sense. It's like a throttle. It's like a volume knob on a radio. You just turn it up and turn it down. So anyway, let's see. Let's go over. We recapped the two halves of the dental market from our first podcast, right?
Right.
We went through the result characteristics of each half, what you should expect from each half if you use your marketing dollar to go after them. We talked about targeting each half. We talked about targeting in general, actually, and we talked about how most media types are not really targetable, or certainly not as targetable as mail. Mail is the ultimate targeting machine. And how to communicate with each half and what to communicate to them with, either a postcard or a brochure type. And I would even go, Howie, I would go as far as we have customers who, you know, their practice is at a certain point. They're happy with the capacity. They're happy with the revenues, but maybe they're in their 50s and they want to do more cool dentistry, right? The fun stuff. We have clients like that. We have tons of clients like that, right?
Yeah.
So what we do in those cases is we target the top 10% and we send them 8-page magazines all about the practice. That's another way you can use mail to minimize your expense, maximize the possibility of a great return. Now, magazines, they don't hardly get any volume of calls, maybe 10 or 12 per drop. But the average revenue per patient off of them is astronomical. So you only need one, really, to cover an entire year or year and a half magazine campaign. So anyway, so those are the two halves of the dental market. What they mean or could mean to your practice when you make a decision on where to use your marketing dollar, how to target them, what to send them. It's not as simple as you think, but then again, it's not, when you think about it and when you talk about it, it's not really complicated. It's logical in its nature. Got anything else to add, Howie?
No, I don't. I think our time is up for this week. I hope whoever's out there listening on whatever channel you're listening to us on will come back again and listen some more.
All right. We'll talk to you next week.